Hey everybody, this is Kim Stevens, your community leader for the Women of the Channel Leadership Network, and welcome to another WOW session. So with me today is one of our largest sponsors of Women of the Channel, and that is Amber Gould, who is with Ingram Micro, and she is the Executive Director of Human Resources. Amber, good morning.
Good morning.
Before we jump into some of the business questions, I always like to ask this question, and that is, what is a little known fact about you?
A little known fact about me. Something, I don't cook at all. I don't cook breakfast, lunch, or dinner. My husband does all the cooking. That is probably a little known fact. Well, not to my husband, I guess, or my daughter. I have to learn from her dad.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I am not a cook either, and I love the fact that he does it all. That is just brilliant. So Amber, obviously you're running the largest division, HR, for the largest division of Ingram. So when you think about your position and what you've done, like what are some things that you are most proud of in terms of your accomplishments?
Yeah, so I started right before the pandemic happened. So it would go without saying getting through the pandemic because there was no playbook. And I'll be honest, the company made it easy in the sense of, the leadership team is unbelievably kind and very empathetic, and people really are first. It sounds like a cliche, but it's real. They genuinely put people first. But just making it through the pandemic, not only at work, but personally, I think is right. You can't go without talking about that. And I think the other piece is just, I don't necessarily, look like our leadership team from age, from gender, and I'm really proud of myself for giving ideas, and I think for them for listening and really thinking about how not only just I want HR to look, right? I don't want it to be scary. I don't want it to be the police. We're very human. We're business people who happen to do HR. I think, that's something I'm really proud of just the connection that we've been able to bring to the business and the fact the business listens. So I think just generally, those are two big things right this moment that I'm very proud of.
So you've been in this position for 2 years, or at Ingram Micro for 2 years?
I've been at Ingram Micro for 2.5 years.
Really? So tell me a little bit, if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about how you got there.
Yeah. So I started my career at Target. So it's my favorite place in the whole wide world. I worked there through high school. They put me through college. And then I went to grad school, and I happened to get an internship with GE. And I worked for the GE companies, a bunch of different GE companies. And then I was able to go into private equity, and I worked for various equity companies. And then I happened to work for a partner of Newegg called Newegg, who did business with Ingram. And there's just a lot of worlds that collided. And then I found my way in front of Kirk Robinson, and now I'm here.
You're in a leadership position. And I love what you said, that you don't look like everybody else. Love that. And we need more of that. So what are some things that you've done to differentiate yourself?
Yeah. So I was early in my career, and I had two amazing mentors, Brian Young and Fred Burdett. They were at GE through one of the companies called Circor. And quite frankly, the advice they gave me was to never say no. When something comes up, just don't say no, because typically women specifically, I remember Brian saying, they're going to see all the reasons they can't do something. And so, I was young, I was 21 years old, and he said, just don't say no, just do it, try it. So with that experience, I was able to work in operations, work in finance. I pigged pipes in Oklahoma. I programmed HR systems, and then everything in between. And if I wouldn't have gotten that advice, I don't know if I would have done those things. So I learned a lot about business. And because of that, I think that's helped me be very successful. I think in this role specifically, what helps is, one, I have a very open executive team. So they listen, and they ask really good questions. But more importantly, I think I've taken the time, and this is what I give advice for anyone I mentor, is to really understand the business. So by understanding the business, you can be a better partner. And it doesn't matter what function you're in. I just happen to be in the function of HR. And so I can help those leaders in a different way by looking at a people lens, but I can't do that if I don't understand the business. So I think business acumen is something that's probably something I pride myself of having. And I really think I have that because kind of the experiences I had just cutting my teeth in work were with some really strong allies who told me that's going to be a huge differentiator for you.
This might be kind of a good segue to another question I had, and that is, regarding some patterns. If you've noticed some patterns over the years of things that women might do at work, and maybe some things that they could do a little bit better to advance their careers. Maybe it's like you said, like just say yes, right? So I didn't know if you had any thoughts on things that you've noticed.
Yeah, I think I've noticed two things. One, being a bit younger most of the time than my peers, and then in the organizations that I've worked in, typically, I'm one of kind of few women. So I've got both of those things that are different, I guess, than the people that I sit with. One thing I do notice a lot is sometimes we dismiss how great those attributes can be. So when we look at the people around us, I think of my situation, we're dual working family and my husband's got an equally important career as I do. And so there's a lot of give and take, and we have a little one. And so maybe those experiences, the people that I sit with don't have. And so what I have seen is many women will just not talk about the difference of those experiences. And I think my exec staff could tell you I'm very loud at telling them about the differences of our experiences. And the reason why is because that experience gives me a different perspective with the people that I work with, because most people now I think are in that boat. So I try to use that voice. And I think sometimes women forget to use that voice to say, hey, here's my experience. It might look different than yours. We really have to focus on inclusion as companies. So we don't say yes to things, don't say yes to bad things, but we don't say yes to things as quickly as I think we should, because we're smart and capable humans, and there's YouTube and there's Google, and we'll figure it out. And we've got networks. So, just jump.
I love that, because I think our knee-jerk reaction is like, oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
There's, you hear all the studies, right? If a woman's looking at doing something, if she doesn't have all 10 things, no, we're a guy. Oh, I've got 2.5. I'm a shoo-in, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's so great to try to change your mindset to just what you said. Hey, maybe I don't know, but I'm smart enough to figure it out. I know I have resources I can go to.
Yeah.
I also love what you were saying too about, and I don't know, tell me if I'm understanding this right. I think about my journey, and for us, there was a time when I was the working person and my husband stayed home and took care of the kids. So he was doing the Mr. Mom thing, right? And that just worked for us. That was just our situation. But a lot of folks in like that live near us, that wasn't the situation. So I always felt almost, ashamed is not the right word, but almost embarrassed as a mom that I wasn't the one staying home. So, but then I think about it, I'm like, it took me years to accept this, where I'm like, as long as he and I are good and the kids are good, doesn't matter, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so I started to not shy away from that and sort of like downplay it, but sort of just not be afraid to share our experience. So is that kind of what you're saying?
100%.
Yeah.
100%, because all the dynamics of families, I think, look so different now.
Yeah.
And everyone's roles lift and shift. And if we don't talk about those, it doesn't leave room in the elevator for other people to talk about those things. And I think that's just really important for a lot of reasons, right? For so many reasons. And I think you hit on the head. It's just this feeling of, am I good enough? And in a world of Pinterest and social media and all those things, we talk about that impacting kids. No, it impacts everybody. There isn't a day that we don't stare at each other on Zoom and you're looking at your face and thinking, oh my gosh, do I need something else? And, oh, that mom is making the best lunches ever, and I don't even know how to make lunch, and, whatever, insert whatever it is. So, in a community where we can help each other, it sounds so, hallmark, but it's real. We need to give each other that space and that opportunity just to talk about it and not be judgy.
What are some things that you've been exposed to or had to deal with along your journey, and how did you maneuver it?
When I was younger, my first reaction was very abrupt. And I think over time, I've learned how to harness whatever I want to say or not say, or a look, or a conversation off the side. Just, hey, do you want to know how that made me feel? And I think that comes with time of just feeling more secure in yourself. But I do think the one thing that I know I do, and I encourage anyone to do, and male, female, whatever, whatever your situation is not to let it lie, mostly if it's festering. So there's appropriate ways to have those conversations. Like, I doubt you meant to make it feel this way. However, let me tell you how I experienced what you just said. Or there has been, thank God not at Ingram, I will be completely honest, but I have had times where, we'll be sitting at a table talking about something really important within the business and just being completely dismissed. And one of my jobs, I had the CEO hand me his car keys and ask me to go wash his car. And I think to myself, there has to be many people who've had experiences like that from that person. So I take it upon myself to be the one that shuts that down. And so that's what I encourage you is in, a positive way, find a mentor, talk it out, role play it. I've role played out so many situations because it's important. We have the ability to be a voice for people who are bringing their careers up. And so if we can move and push away some of those barriers, I think it's important. And, that would probably be how I tackle some bias. And, I am really getting out of shape because there's not a lot of that where I am now. But, I do think it's really important that we talk about it and we call it out when we see it.
What are some things or characteristics that you possess or that even you admire that really makes for an effective leader?
So from an HR perspective, there are two people that I work with, a gentleman named Jeff Yelton and a gentleman named Dennis Krupe, who have probably made me feel the most confident about myself than anyone I've ever worked with. And both of them said to me, because so what is it that I do well? We do a lot of that here at Ingram. What do we do well? We like to talk about what we do well because, we want more of that. And they both said, you understand this business and you happen to know HR. And so because you know the business, it just makes it so much easier and more authentic on adopting or talking about things that deal with people. And I think for me, that is something that I possess and I encourage anyone to possess is understand your business. And it sounds really simple, but do you know how you make money? Do you know how you lose money? Do you understand who your competitors are? And in an HR space, some people look at me like I'm speaking a foreign language, but it really is important because all of those factors make up how you're going to react to cultural decisions, how you're going to act to people decisions, talent, retention, all those things. So I think that's from a lens of HR. As a human, I think for me, something I possess is, I know I'm confident. I hope to God I'm not arrogant, but I do know I'm confident. And I'm not afraid to say, I have no idea how to do this, but I'm going to do it. I also, at this point, am pretty picky and choosy on where I work and who I work with. And, when I was younger, I really just dove in. It didn't really matter because I just took it as all of these experiences, bad or good, they're all going to be an experience that makes me who I am. And now as I'm getting older, I have that luxury to be a little bit more picky on where I work and who I work with. So I think as you look at where you are in your journey of your career, I can't say it enough, have a very good mentor that can, keep you grounded and give you some good advice. But that to me is what's been successful, understanding the business, taking risks. And then I think now being really picky and choosy on where I work. And I know that is a luxury for me. So I think those are probably like my top things.
So you and your husband both have high, demanding jobs and you have a family. So that's a lot to juggle and balance, right? So are there some things, maybe some best practices that you and your husband follow to make sure that you're able to integrate both your work life and your family and personal life? Like, what are some things that you guys do?
Yeah, I love that you said the word integrate and not balance because at Ingram, they know I'm very passionate about this topic. It's a juggle. it's never going to balance perfectly. And if you tell yourself it must have this perfect utopia, you are going to fail. And that's not fair for anybody. So a few things in my house, I do not read parenting magazines. I was going neurotic and all the things I wasn't doing right. I do not read parenting magazines. I also follow every hot mess mom on social media because they make me feel better. We talked about dinner and lunch and those types of things, right? So, we really have a conversation of who's doing what. And I encourage every new parent, have that conversation. What are your expectations of me and what are my expectations of you? When we go on vacations, their trips have the lowest possible expectation of that trip. And I promise you it will be fine. And your house doesn't have to look like Martha Stewart is coming over because nobody cares. And anyone who does care is not your friend. And we say these things, but I just think we have these unrealistic standards of life. We don't have to be Pinterest parents. We don't have to be Pinterest workers. Just be realistic and be kind to yourself.
Oh, well, Amber, I so appreciate you just letting me get to know you more. I have been blessed by this. I just love everything that you've shared and really appreciate everything that Ingram does for women of the channel. Just I'm so grateful. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having us. And yes, I couldn't work for a better place. I'm very fortunate.
Well, you guys, once you listen to this, would you give Amber a shout out? Let her know that you appreciate her. Make sure Pinterest is fine, but just don't live in there. Okay. Just, and we will see you guys on the next WOW session. Okay. You guys take care. Thanks, Amber.
Thank you.